Welcome back to the 1211 podcast, where real people share real stories of how they found hope, healing, and freedom in Jesus. We're so glad you're here. I'm Jennifer, and I'm here with my co-host, Tabitha.
Thank you. The heartbeat behind what we do is Revelation 12:11, that triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. At 12:11, we believe that sharing your story isn't just powerful, it's how we fight the enemy. When we speak of God's faithfulness, even in our darkest seasons, something shifts. Chains break, hope arises. The enemy doesn't get to tell us who we are.
Today's episode is no exception, friends. We have a story that will stir your faith and remind you that Jesus really is enough, especially when life takes an unexpected turn.
We are honored and to welcome, I'm going to try to hold it together. Already. We are honored to have a very precious friend, Madison Barnett, to the podcast. You're going to be so encouraged by Madison's story. Her journey has not been easy. Through it all, she's found hope in Jesus and is more committed than ever to making sure others know about the hope that she has found.
To know Maddie is to love her. Maddie exudes joy and positivity. She lights up every room she walks into, and I have no doubt you're going to sense that contagious joy today. Before we get into the specifics of your story, Maddie, we'd like to play a round of rapid fire fun.
Can't wait.
Yeah, you say that. We'll ask you a series of questions. Just answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't overthink it.
Okay.
We say that for people like Tabitha.
Yeah.
She has a hard time on it. I'm thinking it. All right, here we go.
All right. If you could have any superpower just on the softball field,
Okay.
what would it be?
To be invisible?
Why?
Well, because I feel like if I'm invisible, like I can just make something happen out of nowhere, and then like people aren't sure what's happening and cause a little bit of chaos, and maybe it would throw people off.
Yeah, I like that.
So what is your go-to hype song before a game?
Rattle by Elevation Worship.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a very good one. Sweet or salty snacks?
Salty.
Do you have a favorite?
The jalapeno, Miss Vicky's jalapeno chips,
Oh, yeah.
or pita chips. Yeah.
But first thing that you would do if you won $1 million?
Probably buy my grandparents a new house, or buy like a home. Probably, if I did something, it would be that. I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. Your favorite Bible verse right now?
For I don't know. I feel like the Lord has been working through Psalm 139, and just like the whole chapter, not a specific verse, but just like recognizing that He is in the midst of everything and all, like at all times. Psalm 23 has kind of been, we'll talk about it later, but it was my verse in the last season of my life, and I still use it, but I would say Psalm 139 has been my like go-to recently.
Love that.
So if they were to make a movie of your life, what celebrity would you want to play you?
Oh, man. Probably somebody funny. Like, maybe, like, Sandra Bullock or Tina Fey. Or somebody, like, fun.
That's great.
Sandra Bullock will be a good one.
Yeah, I love her.
One word that your teammates would use to describe you?
Probably joyful, if I had to guess. That's probably what they'd say.
Yeah.
What's something people would be surprised to know about you? Like a little quirky habit you have, or something that you like, it has to be a certain way, or a place that you like to hang out and visit, or...
I am, oddly enough, like I am a major overthinker, perfectionist type of person.
You're in good company then.
I don't know if that would come as a surprise to people that don't really know me, but I think probably on the outside, like I feel like I probably look like I have it all together sometimes or most of the time, but like on the inside, it's like, what if I said this wrong or this wrong? So yeah, that would probably
second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed that about you.
Yeah.
At all. Coffee order or your favorite drink?
An iced caramel macchiato with almond milk.
Your favorite coffee shop? This always has to come up too.
My favorite one in Cleveland is, I would say it's called Simple Calf. It's like by far my favorite. If you're ever in the Cleveland area, I would recommend.
We'll be there this summer. So
Yeah,
at the university, by the way.
I would recommend that. Yeah, or Bond Life. Bond Life is great too. And then here, I really like Feel So Good and I really like Walnut Hill.
Yeah.
But then there's a new one that I tried yesterday that's brand new called Backyard Brew, and it's great too. So I don't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, coffee shops. I mean, you just need
I just love a local coffee shop.
Me too. It's my favorite thing. Like, I can just hang out in a coffee shop for hours and get so much accomplished.
Me too.
My sweet spot. So after a game,
Mm-hmm.
what's your favorite meal?
Steak and potato.
You can't go wrong with steak potato anytime.
Do you make them or do you go somewhere? Is there a certain spot?
Depends on if mom and dad can't. If they can't, yes, we will go and they'll make it. But favorite spot, it has to be Outback. Outback makes a great steak.
Absolutely.
All right. Good job. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you for playing along. We're going to jump into your story. If you would first tell us a little bit, who is Maddie? Your growing up years, your family, big moments you remember in your childhood or teenage years.
Yeah, so I grew up here. I've grown up in Tullahoma my whole life. I didn't really know anything outside of Tullahoma until I went to college. I have one sister, and she's 2.5 years older than me. We were 3 years apart by grade, and so we fought like brothers. Like, we fought like boys up until like middle school, like fists fighting. Like, we were just like
I feel better now.
at each other's throats like all the time. But now we're like attached to the hip best friends. So my mom and my dad have been married for going on, I'm pretty sure it's 30 years.
Yeah.
They got married in 1995. So yeah, it would be 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they've been like a really, really big example of like a godly, sustainable marriage, like a really good foundation of what it looks like to be married and to work together as a unit. Everybody lives here. Most of my family lives here, within like a 10-minute radius of like us. So I grew up like really, really close to like all of my family. My my dad's family owns a business. And so because of that, I feel like we're around each other even more. But it makes you really connected to like your family and the people that you're surrounded by, which is really cool. And so family is like a huge thing for me. And then I started playing softball when I was 6. I started pitching when I was 7.
Wow.
So, and I've recently just finished. I graduated from Tullahoma, and then I went to Lee to play ball in 2020, fall of 2020.
Oh, those COVID
Yeah.
graduates.
All of
kids.
kids.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah, I have 2 dogs, Little Man and Charlie. They're the best.
little man, Charlie.
Yeah.
Cute. So you talked a little bit about softball. I know that's been a huge part of your life, and it's given you a lot of opportunities, I'm sure. That have been great. So one of those is being a college athlete, which is an accomplishment. So tell about that part of your journey, that part of your life, and how that's been impactful to you, like the opportunity to play college ball, what that's looked like, and it's been a big part of your story.
Yeah, I think, when I decided to play softball when I was a kid, like the dream was always to be a college athlete. It was never like, I want to go to this school and do this good and blah, 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 blah. Like, it was just like, no, I want to go to college and I want to go play ball. And so I think this past season of being a college athlete of my life, the last 5 years of my life, has just been like a testament of hard work and like faithfulness of the Lord. Like, I think that it's just like things that come to fruition when you work hard and you like pray that like, if it is His will, like His will be done. And I think that is something that's so cool about sports. And I think that being a college athlete for me has just been so rewarding, not just because of being a student athlete, like that is a lot in itself, but it's been so rewarding because I got to be surrounded by a group of girls that surrounded me and challenged me and pushed me and also drew out greatness in me when I couldn't even see greatness in myself. And I think that is such a rewarding thing, is to be able to walk through so many different seasons of life with people who were so divinely placed together for such a time as that. So like, I think it's been so rewarding, not more for all of the things that I've gotten to do because of it, not
the softball in itself, right?
Yeah.
The people it's brought into your life, the opportunities, probably the life skills you've learned through it, and just it does. I think when you're talking about, it's cool to see how all of your journeys intersect in that space, right?
Yeah.
From very different places, very different backgrounds, and but God's provision in your life in that way.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Life can take unexpected twists and turns. If you would take us back to December 6th, 2023, and tell us what happened during that time and how you felt when you first heard that word, and you can tell us what that word is.
Yeah, so on December 6th, I was in Dr. Crabtree's office, and I had what I thought was just like I'm going to call it a lipoma, that's the medical term, but it was just basically a fatty mass on my right rib cage, and it was very surface level, started about the size of, like, I would say maybe a dime, and then it grew to be about the size of a $50 within like the matter of a year. Because I'm an athlete, like, I just wasn't super worried about getting it taken out because I wasn't having like any sort of like, I mean, I'm really conscious about my body and the things that I'm feeling in my body and what I put in my body, and I just didn't think anything about it. I talked to my coach and I was like, I need to get this thing removed. When's the best time to do it? She's like, Thanksgiving break. And I said, great, I'll get it done. I had talked to my primary care doctor, who's Andrea Gore, and she was like, I can do it in office. Granted, she hadn't seen me since June. And so I went to see her in November after seeing her in June. And she was like, I can't. This would have been Thanksgiving week. So November 20 something. And she's like, I can't do it. Like, it's gotten too big. And so went to see Dr. Crabtree. He got me in pretty quickly, like the next day, and he removed it. And he was like, I don't think it's anything to worry about, but like, we need to send it off anyways. And we were like, cool. He called us. Originally, the what do you call it when the labs came back?
Pathology.
Yeah, the pathology came back on it as a round blue cell tumor, and that would have been it would have been maybe 2 or 3 days before December 6th, and we were like, he was like, it very well is probably benign, like, but like, we're gonna do a little bit deeper study on it. Like, I'll call you guys when I get the information. Great, sounds great. He called us. He called me on December 6th at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and he was like, I need you guys to come into my office. Make sure you bring your parents. He's like, I can see you at 11. And I was like, okay, it's 9 o'clock. You want to see me at 11? Like, what am I going to do for the next 2 hours? So I just, like, my heart sank. Like, I had no idea what it was. Like, but my heart sank.
It was something, yeah.
Yeah, my heart sank. Nobody calls you and tells you to come in if it's good news. Like, it's just...
And not bring your parents
right,
2 hours.
Right. So we have a massive back porch in the house we're living in right now, and there's a porch, like there's a swing on the back porch, and I remember sitting there on the porch just praying, like, God, like, just give me peace. Whatever it is, just give me peace. Just give me peace. And there's a Cody Carnes song called Kind. And if you haven't listened to it, like, I would recommend it. But it was like, it basically just talks about like all the things that you walk through in life. Like, all God has ever been is kind. Like, even regardless of what you're walking through, like, he is kind. And I remember like weeping on the back porch to that song, having no idea what I was about to hear 2 hours later. So we pull up to the doctor's office, we walk in, and Dr. Denny, he sits down, and he looked at me, and he had this like file of papers, and he was like, you have cancer. And I was like, what?
Mm.
And he was like, your pathology came back. I've been up all night. And he's like, I've been on the phone. I've made doctor's appointments for you. And he was like, but that lipoma that we thought it was a tumor. And I was like, you're just kind of in shock. Like, you're like, are you kidding? Like, or what's happening? And I remember like not, like it was kind of shock, but like also at the same time, like it was like, so like what's next?
Yeah.
And he was like, it's something called Ewing sarcoma. He was like, I haven't seen this type of cancer in the however many years I've practiced. The only time I've seen it was on my boards. And I was like, great. So now I have cancer and you've never heard of it. Like, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like, that is straight.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've gotten you connected with an orthopedic surgeon that specializes in like masses, and she's gonna she also works with some doctors that do cancer at Vanderbilt, and she's gonna kind of throw your case out to some doctors and see who wants to pick it up. You have an appointment with her on X day. I was like, okay. And he was like, I'm so sorry. Can I pray with you guys before you leave? And I was like, sure. Yeah, like, sure. And I remember he laid hands on my mom and me before we walked, and my dad, before we walked out of his office that day. And he prayed such an intentional prayer. Like, it wasn't just like, Lord, be with her, give them peace. Like, it was like specific.
Yeah.
And I think that when I prayed to the Lord for him to just give me peace, and then that happened, like, I was like, okay, like, yeah, like, you got it. Like, you're in the midst of this already. Like, you are there. And I remember it was December, so it was December 6th. And I remember walking out of his doctor's office, and it was like eerily warm for December. And there was like hardly a cloud in the sky. And I remember walking out, and just like this gust of wind, like just brushed over us. And it, like, I literally had chills that went from the top of my head to the toes of my feet. And it stopped me in my tracks. And my mom was like, are you okay? And I was like, it's going to be okay.
Mm.
And she was like, what? And I was like,
yeah,
it's going to be okay. Like, I felt the Holy Spirit in a way, in that moment, like, I felt the Holy Spirit in a way that I don't think I'd ever encountered outside of a church building.
Yeah.
And I was like, we sat down, and I was like, we sat down in the car, and I was like, I'm not going to die. And I was like, it's going to be okay. And my mom was like, Madison, like, it's okay to not be okay. And I was like, no, I know, but like, it's going to be okay. And so I think, as shocking and as wild as like the next month was of my life, just within, between that time and the time that I started my treatments, I met with 2 different doctors. I had that surgery, my first surgery, and then I had another surgery. And I met with the doctor that ended up being the doctor that I saw, and he was my oncologist, and he is great. His name is Dr. Bornstein. And I remember that December 6th was the day that I found out I had cancer. And then I remember everybody telling me that they didn't think I was going to have chemo. And I was like, great. That's great news. Like, that's great news. And I remember him walking in for whatever day was the first time that I met him. And he specializes in this kind of stuff. And I had already made an appointment to get my next surgery on the area done. And he was like, everybody had said that I wasn't going to have chemo. And he sat down and he was like, you're going to have 29 weeks of chemo. And I'm entering my senior season of softball. And he was like, you're going to have 29 weeks of chemo, 14 rounds. And I've never seen somebody do it all the way through without stopping for something. So I need you to understand that this could be longer than 29 weeks. So don't put a date on your calendar. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that was in that moment, like I looked at him and my first response to him, I think that was the first time that I think that I felt myself kind of shake to my core. Like it wasn't cancer that shook me, like it shocked me, but it was, you're going to have to go through chemo, because all I had known from chemo was people that were really sick, that died. And I looked at him like dumbfounded, and I was like, am I going to die? And he was like, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. And I was like, well, that's not a great answer. Like, thank you for that. But like, I need you to tell me no. I need you to tell me no. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, this is going to be hard. And I was like, okay. And then that was when like I felt like my life and my world had like kind of been flipped upside down. Yeah. Like it was like, okay, chemo. Okay, that's 7 months. That's all of spring. That's my entire spring season. I'm supposed to graduate in December. Like, what do I do? I can't, like, I have to be home because I'm going to be in Nashville every 2 weeks. I can't go to school. And I was like everything that I had known for the last 3 years was just like stripped from me. And I think that was like, okay. It was in that moment that it was like, what do I do now?
Yeah. So how you talked a little bit about how your faith was a part of the beginning of that journey, but like that moment that you're saying was really, okay, this is the one that shook me to the core.
Yeah.
Like how did your faith respond then? Like what was important for you during that time? And it's okay, like, because sometimes I think that it's important that we unpack that, like, there's questions, like even when you're walking their faith journey, like the questions like, well, what now? Why? Like, those are normal things.
Yeah, it was very much that. But between that time period, I had told some people and just like really close family friends like what it was. And my mom's best friend, Victoria, she came over. She's my hairstylist, but she's like a second mom to me, her and her husband. And I sat in her chair and she did my hair, and I was like really emotional. And she's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, like I'm fine. And we hadn't told anybody. And so like I didn't want to just be like, I'm sitting in your chair and I'm about to ruin your day. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. And so she ended up coming over. It would have been the same week that I found out about the cancer. So like the same week as the December 6th time period. And so it was before I even knew I was going to have chemo. And she came over and I showed her my scar, and she was my incision from where I had the first surgery. And she was like, don't you have a tattoo right there? And I was like, yeah, I do. And just like blew it off. And she's like, what does your tattoo say right there again? And I said, it is well with my soul. And she was like, what? And I was like, it says it is well with my soul. And she's like, Madison, do you think, she's like, that's not a coincidence. And I was like, I just like brushed it off. Like I was just like, oh yeah, like probably not. Uh-huh. And that week at church, we, like I just had kept praying, like, God, give me peace, give me peace, give me peace, give me peace. And we started Advent. We had started Advent at church. And Pastor Scott got up. We sang worship. And I hear the intro to It Is Well, the song. And I was like, and I just remember like being in the room and the people that knew walking over and literally laying a hand on me and just praying. And I was like, wow, like that is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because like it wasn't just like, oh, I picked this song because like I knew that this was like it wasn't anything like those songs are picked like
Sure.
a month or months in advance.
Right.
And it was just days after I'd found out. And Pastor Scott gets up and he's like, so as you guys know, like we're in Advent and today we're going to be talking about peace, but specifically peace in the midst of circumstances that aren't always what we expect them to be. And I was like, cool.
Right.
Like, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, great. Okay. So that was before everything. And so like when I got that, like I was like, God, how am I supposed to have peace like in this? Like this is a lot.
Yeah.
And so I remember like just asking, like, just continue to give me peace, continue to give me peace. And he just like continued to like show up in like really random things.
Yeah.
The verse, I had prayed whether or not I should share my story on social media. And the more I prayed about it, the more uneasy I felt about not sharing it. And then I was like, well, like I should do this. Like this is something that I should do. And the verse that I shared when I shared the first post was the chapter of Psalm 23. And I have it pulled up if you don't mind me sharing.
I would love you to do that.
It says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He lies me down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." And so that was the chapter that I shared on my post, my initial post. And my grandfather came over after I found out. My grandparents, my dad's parents, came over after I found out about having to go through chemo. And my grandfather walked in with a frame. And he was like, "I have something for you." You know, like sometimes when grandparents show up with frames, you're not really sure what you're going to get.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, great. Like, great. I can't wait to see it. And there's like writing on the back. And he was like, "So this has been hanging in our house for however long they've lived in Tullahoma, a really long time. And I feel like I'm supposed to give it to you." And I was like, okay. I was like, "What is it?" He like turns it around and he's like, "I was given this by my mentor or someone that had kind of followed his journey in becoming a pastor." And he's like, "I was gifted this and I want you to have it." And he flips it around and it's this picture of of sheep and a shepherd and a rod and a staff and this like mountain, and it's like curvy, and it has Psalm 23 written down the picture. And I was like, "Do you know that, like, did you know?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, okay. And so just in those moments, like there was moments like that where I was like,
He sees me.
yeah. Like it wasn't at that moment that it wasn't a fear of, am I going to be okay? Like it was the confirmation and like the assurance that even if I wasn't, I was going to dwell.
Right.
I was going to dwell.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, like that came with a lot of like uncertainty, but also in the midst of that uncertainty, like the Lord was like, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. All the places, all the hard places. Talk a little bit about how you think your journey might have looked different because you had that foundation of faith. Like, what do you think it might have been like had that not been your story?
Yeah. It's funny because I look back and my spiritual journey, like a year before that had even happened, was not in a place where if it would have happened to me a year prior than when it did, like I would have been like, to heck, like with religion, right? To heck with the Lord, like,
yes.
Sorry, like I don't, but like,
no,
I mean,
it's good.
And I was just like, I wasn't in church. Like, I mean, I went to a Christian school, so like it was like I go to Bible classes and I have chapel twice a week. Like, I'm in church. Yeah. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm in church. I have church twice a week. Like, I'm doing great.
Right.
I wasn't like in my Bible. And then like I got out of a relationship that was just like pulling me away, and I just felt so convicted. And I was like that relationship ended, and I just like in like the flip of a switch, like it was just like everything changed for me. And it was like that would have been summer of 2023. So it would have been like 6 months prior to, it would have been like 6 months prior to when I found out. And it was just like, how gracious is the Lord to know that, to recognize that I was not in a place where I could be tested from the enemy. Like, and I think that like he was protecting me for 6 months until I got it. I got it together, really. And then he was like, yeah, you go ahead and try and see.
Yeah.
Because like she's with me. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Powerful.
Divine timing for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
You started treatment just over a month after your diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
What did that journey look like for you physically, emotionally, spiritually? And was there a moment in that process you felt closer to God? Maybe did you feel very separated from him?
Yeah. So when I started treatment, like of course you don't really know what to expect. Like it's just like everybody can tell you things and people can tell you things about experiences and things like that, but you don't really ever know. And so basically my regimen was I would go in clinic one day and I would be there basically all from like 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Like I would open them and close them basically. Yeah. And I would get 4 hours of treatment and then they'd pump me with fluids and then I'd go home. And I would do that and then I'd go get counts the following week. I'd go get my blood drawn and they would check my counts. And then the following week I would go for a week-long stay where I would get treatment. I would get 4 rounds in 5 days, basically. And they'd advance the treatment every 4 hours. So I was on 5 different chemo medications. So I'd take 3 the in-clinic day, and then I would take 2 the week-long. And, I was college athlete, so I was in, like, probably the best shape of my life, luckily.
Yeah.
And, but, like, still, you just don't really ever know. So I think that was, like, initially, like, I was like, okay, this is good. Yeah. Like, I'm in great shape. Like, I eat really well. Like, I take care of my body. But, like, I think when you go through treatment, like, you have to be so specific with who you're around.
Yeah.
And not being around a lot of people and things like that because you're so susceptible to being sick.
Yeah.
Mind you, it's spring. I'm a softball player. And I was like, I can't just show up to doctor's appointments and go home and that be all I do. Yeah. I can't do that.
I've lived at a ball field my life.
And so I was like, I play an outside sport. Like, is there any way? And oddly enough, they were like, yeah, we don't care. Just don't be like licking people's snot and like all this other stuff. I'm like, I wasn't planning on doing that anyway. Even if I didn't have cancer, like I wasn't planning on licking people's snot. But great. So interestingly enough, almost every off week that I had from treatment was every home game that the girls played. And so I was there. Like it didn't matter. Like and oddly enough, I had decided in November of 2023 that I was going to come back and be a graduate assistant for the softball team. And my parents had bought us a townhouse. Brand new. Nobody had ever lived in it but me. And so I had a place to stay that nobody else was in. And we stayed, me and my parents stayed there, and I would go and I'd see my friends would come over, and at first I was like, no hugs, like I can't hug you, like I don't want to get sick. And then it got to be like, I can't not hug these people, like I can't not hug these people. And so I was like, you know what, the Lord's gonna protect me, like he's gonna keep me healthy, because I know that I'm supposed to be here, like I know I'm supposed to be like, and if it gets me sick, fine, because at least mentally, like I'm healthy. Yeah. Because for me, like not being around people was the hardest part for me, because it's like those, just as much as home, like this is home, that is home.
Yeah.
And so like I'm so lucky to have home in two different places, but also like those people in that place is my home. Yeah. And so when I got stripped of like my friends and like all I had known, and then I'm like now living back at home with my parents. I love my parents, but like I was a 20-year-old at the time that had been living on her own for 2.5 years, 3 years, and now she's having to like live back at home, and like she can't go anywhere and do anything. And she doesn't have, I mean, she has a handful of friends here, but not as many friends as she has at school. And like that was really hard for me. Like I struggled mentally more than anything. And also, fun fact, like chemo does that to you. Like you're on like for women, you're on some sort of hormone suppressant usually, because of just like the iron and things like that, like the blood stuff. And so I just, in that, like you like dip and you know, like you're just like riding this wave, but also like the side effects of chemo like make you go on this roller coaster of emotions. And it's like, okay, this is a lot. Like, so I think physically I struggled later. And I got weak and I was tired and I was sleeping all the time. Like I would come home from treatments and I would basically fall asleep as soon as we got home. I wouldn't even eat dinner. I would fall asleep as soon as we got home after taking a bath. And I would sleep until like 9 or 10 o'clock the next day. And I don't like, I'll go to bed at like 10 o'clock and wake up at like 7. Like I'm on the dot, like I'm in a routine, like and that was like the biggest piece of advice the nurse gave me, was just like, if you can just get out of your bed. And I was like, I'm like on the go all the time. Like, is it really going to be that hard for me to like get out of bed? And it was. It was. And it wasn't the mental side of it that it was like, I can't get out of bed. Like, it was just like a chore to get out of bed and change my clothes. Yeah. Just like I was out of breath from like walking from the couch to the kitchen. And like, it was like, I just left, like exerting all of this energy, throwing 7 innings, like running all the time, like lifting really heavy weights. And then now like I can hardly walk around without being out of breath or sitting down. Like it got to a point where like I was at softball games and I would stand for 15 minutes and I was like, I'm going to have to sit down. Like I'm exhausted. Yeah. Yeah. And
what got you through that? Like, I mean, what kind of was some of the things that you would say on a regular basis was the thing that kept you pushing through, that kept you going?
I think it was just like the people. Like I am so blessed to, like I said, like to have two places that like I get to call home, that are surrounded by people that like love me and pour into me, and like not by my own strength was I able to.
Sure.
Like it wasn't, oh, I have to get up for me. Like it was like, I have to get up and fight for them. And sorry, I'm going to get emotional. I had to get up to be able to go to watch softball games, and I had to, because I wanted to be there for them, and because they gave me life. They filled my cup. And then I had to get out of bed because I wanted my family, like my family gave me life. I didn't need to be in bed because they gave me life and they poured into me. Like it wasn't me. Like there was no way that I could have done it by myself. Like there's no way. And by the like Lord's goodness, like he just so specifically gave me two communities that were so enriched with people who maybe didn't walk what I was walking, but like had walked stuff and were willing to pour into me and were willing to be like, keep going, like keep going. And one of them is sitting next to me on the couch. And she, like, there were moments when we met with Tab and her family, and before I had ever started treatment, and Tabitha has a story about Redbirds. And she was like, I want you to find the Lord. Even when you're mad, like find the Lord, because I found the Lord. And mine ended up being Redbirds. And still to this day, it's Redbirds. And we saw them, I'm not kidding, every time we left for treatment, in the same spot, there would be a redbird that would fly past our car before we ever left Tullahoma. And every time we drive home, there would be one sitting there. And even in moments where like I was like, I can't make it another day, like one would just show up. When it wasn't when I was aggravated with my mom because we were around each other all the time, like I would go outside and there would be a redbird. And it was like, it's just one day at a time.
One moment at a time. I think the beautiful thing about what you're saying that I think all of us need to be reminded of is that he cares so deeply for us. Like all of those little things are not coincidental. Like that is God's grace woven in your life, that he loves you that much.
I don't believe in coincidence. Like I don't.
No.
Nothing is a coincidence anymore.
And that it's just proof of his love for us. Like he sees us, he cares about us, he sends those little glimmers of hope to keep us hanging on. And I think the challenge you said Tabitha gave you is a challenge for all of us is, you know, you tend to find what you're looking for. Right? So if you're looking for despair and hopelessness, if you're looking for reasons to be angry, to be offended, whatever that is, you find those reasons. But if you start really being intentional about finding reasons to be thankful, finding evidence of God's presence and his goodness in your life, you find it, right? Because you find what you're looking for. So I appreciate that reminder today, because I think it doesn't matter where we are in life, we need that reminder.
And he's going to show up in the things that you don't expect him to show up in.
We miss him a lot.
I don't think that I had ever really recognized a redbird in my life until the last year. And it's just like they're like, when I say they're everywhere, like it's like
Can't get rid of them.
everywhere. And it's like I saw 3 of them on my walk this morning. Like it was just like
just a little glimmer of like, remember, I see you.
It's like it is the Lord. Like, you know, people talk about like seeing the Lord, but like I wrote something, I think my mom shared it with Tabitha, but it was just like, I see the Lord in Redbirds. And I think that is like an encouragement for like people that might be going through something hard and challenging, is like, even if your season is just a hard season, like, and you don't feel like you can see the Lord, like you You just have to look for him in the ordinary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the sunsets and the blue skies and the wind that sweeps across us, right? Like, just in the smile of a stranger in the grocery store. Yeah, there's so many ways that we can experience him, and it's not just in a church service on a Sunday morning in worship, right? Like, he wants us to see him every moment of every day because he's here. He's with us. He's present. Yeah. So something you shared as we were prepping for this time with you, Maddie, was a pretty powerful quote that I want you to unpack for our listeners. You said that sometimes when the Lord uses you for something greater, it means walking through things you don't fully understand at the time. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, so when I got diagnosed, I don't know what it was, but I just felt this I just felt this heaviness of the Lord saying I'm using you. I'm using you. I'm using you. And I still don't know the magnitude of that.
Sure.
But I could just I felt this responsibility, not necessarily to have it all figured out, but to see and to show that in the midst the Lord is still good. And I think that there's a lot of times when we expect our Christianity or our walk with the Lord to be this okay, yeah, the Lord is just gonna, it's gonna look good and it's gonna feel good. And while it does, there are gonna be things that he's gonna use you for that make you really uncomfortable. Yeah. And they stretch you and they pull you and they make you angry and unsure, and that makes you question. But ultimately at the end of the day, he's using that and using that moment to mold you and shape you into who he's calling you to be, into this great disciple of him. And I think when I got diagnosed, it was just, I felt this just heaviness on my heart to just continue to be just a disciple of the Lord. And I just felt the Lord was just continuing to tell me I'm using you, I'm using you, I'm using you to show that it's not always what we think it's supposed to look like. But sometimes when it doesn't look the way we expect it or the way we hoped it would, sometimes that's when the best parts come.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's one of the things I've had conversation with quite a few people lately about that whole idea of, in our Americanized eyes, we kind of equate good with comfort or ease. But when you read scripture, it's not that at all, right? And you think about Jesus tells us it's in our suffering that we know him best. And I, none of us want to suffer. It's not give me all the suffering. I want to suffer. Nobody wants to go through that. But I think what your perspective on that is so powerful, of the fact of in the suffering, through the suffering, he changes us. He transforms us. He makes us more like him. We know him in a deeper way because we have to cling to him in a different way. We have to know him in a different way in our suffering. And we become more like him then. That I think and I also think it's out of our suffering that we have compassion and empathy for others. We have a more proper, I guess, perspective on life and what it's really about.
It's an intimate understanding of not just the Lord and his character, but of everybody.
Yes. Yeah. So good. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. When life looks different than we planned or hoped, it's easy to become angry, bitter. It's easy to retreat, like you said, and just want to give up. But you didn't. And you didn't see this as a test from God. You saw this as a test from the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're trying to pull me from my God, and
Yeah.
you didn't let him do that.
Yeah.
And just that his strength inside of you, and how you ended up finding him, breaking into the midst,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing him in different places. How did that perspective shaped you as in walking through suffering?
Yeah, I think, like, once I recognized, like, I think that season taught me a lot of things, but, like, if I could look back and be like, one, like, if there was, like, a handful of things, that would have been, like, the major one that stuck out to me would be, like, the enemy isn't gonna attack you where you're strong. He's gonna attack you where you're weak. And he tried to attack me physically, and he didn't win. And so he gave me something that was not only going to attack me physically, but emotionally and mentally. And he was like, I just, like, feel like, I don't remember, there was something that I listened to or something that I read, and it was just like, talking about, like, tests and, like, what it looks like to be tested. And it makes me think about, Jesus in the wilderness, and he was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. And, like, even the enemy came and was like, how about some bread? How about some water? How about this? How about that? And it was just like all of these good things, and he couldn't reach him. And I think that kind of, like, that idea stuck with me, because it was like, the Lord, people always say, like, the Lord's not going to give you something that you can't handle. And I'm like, I think he will.
Yeah. Not sure that's really based in scripture. We think that. We don't like to think that, but that is not scripture.
I think he will. And I think that he's willing in some moments to hand us, to let the enemy throw things at us, because he's going to be like, watch what she does for me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have her. I do.
Yeah.
Like, and watch what she's going to do for me.
Yeah.
In spite of what you did to her.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that
out of the suffering. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think real quick, when you were talking about that 6 months prior to you finding out, and it was almost as if
was preparing.
Yeah.
you were preparing. And it takes me back to that story that I've heard Priscilla Shire share about the zebras when they were in Africa. And they were homeschooling at the time, and they were so excited to go see animals that they'd learned about, but you don't get to see in the U.S. a lot. And the guide stopped at the zebras, and she's like, now, I know you're not going to stop talking about these zebras. We can see zebras at home.
I was at the zoo.
And, but it was cool because the baby zebra, the mom takes it away from the herd and spends weeks with it. And then she takes it back to the herd, because the stripes are just as unique as fingerprints, that baby will know that mama by her stripes. And how God took you away with him, got you ready, you learned his stripes and all those things, and then he took you back and said, okay, if you're going to attack her, now she's ready. That's just beautiful.
I think when I was hearing her share that story, I think about what Kate Cataldo shared in our first episode with she was our first guest, and she talked about how the Lord could have delivered her immediately from addiction, but he didn't, because he was teaching her to be a warrior. And I think about like that's powerful to think about those 6 months before. You didn't know it was warrior training, right? But he was preparing you for that. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your teammates and coaches, because they're such a part of this journey, I know. And just they saw your fight up close. Besides your family, probably the closest as anyone. So what is your hope? What do you hope they saw in you? Not just as a player, not just as a teammate, but as a follower of Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I hope that they saw I hope that they saw like just a glimpse of what God can do with just a little bit of faith. you know, like, I think there were often times when, like, the Lord reminded me that all it takes is a mustard seed. And a mustard seed is not big. Like, it is tiny, like the size of a fingernail. Like, I mean, it is just like, and if you could just believe in one thing, and if that one thing is just like the Lord is the Lord, like, that in itself is enough. Like, and I think for me, I think that is what I hope that they saw in me. It was just like that there can be joy in the midst, but also that the Lord can do so much with a little. And I think
little faith.
Yeah.
There may be someone listening right now who's in the middle of their own diagnosis or walking through something they don't understand. What would you share with them right now?
I think it's probably what I just said, like, and also, like, the Lord isn't expecting you to be okay with it. Like, the Lord isn't like, yeah, you're supposed to be okay with it. Like, I think there's something so powerful about coming to the Lord and being like, I don't get it.
And I don't like it, and I'm angry.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And just as our relationship with God is a relationship, like, I think about it, like, oftentimes, like, I would talk to the Lord like that. It wasn't like I had to come to him with this prayer, but like, it was like, God, make sense of this for me because I don't understand it. Like, it was just as if I would have a conversation with one of you, like, something that made me angry, like, I'd be like, talk to me about it. Like, let me see it from your side. And I think that, like, while he might not give you the answer that you may want, or while he might not give you it in the timing that you expect or anything like that, like, I think that you're going to see glimpses of the Lord showing up in a time where you don't feel like you can be close to him. And if you open yourself up to seeing the Lord in the midst of something that you are angry at him with, he is going to do more than you expect. I mean, Ephesians, I think it's 3:20, that says, like, the Lord is like, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than I could ever ask or imagine or think. And I think that is so powerful. And also, like, just dwelling with the Lord, like, just sitting in the stuff with the Lord and being like, I'm mad. I'm mad. And knowing that that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder for our listeners, because when you read the Psalms, David, I mean, he just told God how he felt, you know, but I don't think that was a bad thing. I think it revealed the heart I think it shows the heart between David and his relationship with God, like the kind of relationship they had that I remember in my 20s, the Lord showed me, I had grown up thinking, you don't ask why, you don't ask, you know, those questions, right? But the Lord just showed me, like, Jennifer, who else would you ask? Who else, you know, who else should you turn to? Where else would you go, right? And I think that the very act of us saying to him, show me, I don't understand, I'm mad, why? It shows, it's that in itself is an act of faith, because you're turning toward him instead of away from him. So I think that's a good reminder, like, turn toward him, even with the hard questions, even with the anger, turn toward him.
And I think in those moments are when you get to see the most intimate parts of the Lord's character. Like, I learned more about the Lord's character in the last year of my life than I ever did growing up in church. And not to say that, like, I was taught all of those things, but being taught them and actually seeing them.
Well, it went from a head knowledge to a heart knowledge, right? Like a relationship thing, not just knowing in your mind or being able to answer the questions, but experiencing it in relationship and intimacy. So what now for you, Maddie?
I am currently about to start my second semester of my master's at Lee. I am done playing softball.
And you got to return to the softball field, which was
I got to finish my 5th year 2 weeks ago, I guess. And so I'm going to be a graduate assistant with the softball team, which basically just means that I'm just going to be hanging out, helping out. And I get to go to school and get my master's, so that's cool too.
Yeah.
From there, I don't know.
Yeah. But you know.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Thank you for being with us today and taking time to share your story and be courageous and fight the enemy. Your story is powerful, and we know God has already used you in so many ways to make his glory known. He's going to continue, or that you're going to continue to do that in ways that we can't even imagine. Right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as we wrap up today, we want to remind you, our listeners, that your story is powerful too. If you've experienced his forgiveness and healing, if you've seen God show up in the darkest, hardest seasons in ways that you could have never expected, if you've been set free from an addiction or depression or anxiety, you have a story to tell, and someone needs to hear it. Don't keep your story to yourself. Tell someone else about how God has truly been enough for you and how he has changed everything about your life. Your experience will help them experience new levels of freedom. So go tell your story.
As always, thanks for joining us and being part of the 1211 podcast community. We are grateful you have chosen to listen. Be sure to share Madison's story with someone who needs to be encouraged today.
And be sure to subscribe and follow on Spotify or YouTube so you don't miss a single conversation. Join us next time when we sit down for a deeply personal conversation with a beautiful lady who shares about her journey as a mom to a son with autism. With honesty and grace, she reflects on the twists and turns of navigating diagnoses, therapies, and unanswered questions, and how God has carried her through every single season. From moments of uncertainty to breakthroughs of hope, she testifies to the wisdom and discernment God has faithfully provided to her, equipping her to advocate for her son and help him live a full, joy-filled life. She also speaks powerfully about the gift of a church community, the people who showed up, stood beside her, and reminded her she wasn't walking this road alone. Don't miss this encouraging glimpse into a story of perseverance, faith, and the beauty of walking together through the hard.
Until next time, blessings, friends.